Good morning, rock and metal fans, and welcome to Iridium Rock and Metal Review. So we're going to look at 2009 today. So we're closing in, we're nearly there, where we're looking at the best albums. So this was a pretty good year, actually. Quite a surprise for me, because sometimes, like, where I'm an 80s, obviously mad for 80s bands, as it's been going on, it's been getting harder and harder. But of this year, you saw some great releases from that 80s influence stuff. I've got some southern rock in here as well. Great mixture of stuff, and some really good honourable mentions as well that I was like battling with myself to put into the top 10. But so I've got 10 albums as well, which is really good. So without further ado, let's go number 10 first. So absolutely gutted that I missed this their debut album on my top releases for the year. I don't know how I missed it, but I must have glanced over it for some reason. But this is the second album. It's by a band called Sunstorm, and it's headed by Joe Lynn Turner on the vocals, and it's like a sort of a project he had going on in the 80s, and he revisited it, and took some stuff that he made, especially for the debut album from the 80s, from the stuff, some demos and stuff, I believe. And that was a great album, the Sunstorm album, the self-titled album. But this is the follow-up, House of Dreams. Wasn't quite as good as the debut album. And if you haven't heard the Sunstorm debut album, if you like melodic rock, Joe Lynn Turner singing, it's like the most melodic parts of Rainbow when he was in it, but dare I say it, even a bit better. House of Dreams, though, the follow-up, not quite as good, but still a quality album. Some of my favourite tracks on here: Divided opens the album up, Save a Place in Your Heart, Don't Give Up, full of real quality, class, melodic songs. But I'll give House of Dreams 7 out of 10. My number 9. So this is a band that I've been getting into lately. So they was a new wave of British heavy metal band way back when, but now they're under a different guise, if you like. They sound completely different. And I never was into this band. That's Praying Mantis. And now they've come back, and this was their first album sort of after years of being off, called Sanctuary. And they've come back on Frontiers Records, which is a great label. And what an underrated band this is. So it's a British band. I don't know if they're fully British now, because there's obviously been a lot of changes since way back in the new wave of British heavy metal days. They don't sound new wave of British heavy metal. But what they do is they really mix their music up. You've got faster songs, you've got slower songs. It's all melodic, it's all catchy. It's really an interesting listen. Honestly, it's really good. Singer's great. Everyone's great in the band. It's a real underrated band. So some of the brilliant songs in here are Restless Heart, So High, Lonely Way Home, which is an excellent ballad. You really got to give these guys, if you think it's the same band that it was, and there was nothing wrong with, with new wave of British heavy metal, but I just wasn't into this band at the time when I was younger. But they are a really good band now, and they brought out a few albums that are class. So I'd give this 7.5 out of 10. Right, my next one, Heaven and Hell, The Devil You Know. So sure, all you metalheads will know this. This was Dio's. It wasn't called a Sabbath album. I don't know the story behind that, but it basically was, because it's Tony Iommi. It was Vinny Appice, I think, on the drums, and obviously Ronnie Dio. And it's got that real feel of a Sabbath one, but I don't think it quite caught the class of all the three other Dio Sabbath albums, although it's really good. There's some really good standout tracks in here, but I don't know. I think when you listen to the album as a whole, it sounds a bit samey. I think it repeats itself a bit too much, but it's still good. A great vocal, obviously, from Dio. Some of the standout tracks though in here: Atom and Evil, Bible Black, Follow the Tears. There's some really great tracks in here. But I just don't think obviously you do compare, you know, even to Dehumanizer as well. I think it was a step down, but you know, these guys were getting on, you know, but it was still a really good album. It was something that had to be made, in my opinion, because I was longing to hear Sabbath again, even though they're called Heaven and Hell. So I'll give that 7.5 out of 10 also. Right, my number 7. So Blackberry Smoke, wearing a t-shirt. So I've seen this band a few times. They are Southern rock. Obviously, you know, I don't think I would be. They sort of. I've got another t-shirt that says "Too country for rock, too rock for country." I think that just about sums them up. They're very on the, you know, they're sort of on the edge of. They're really Southern. They are like, I suppose, when Skynyrd finally, you know, retire and go, they're the perfect band. The perfect band that, you know, they've got real Lynyrd Skynyrd sound to them, and I love Lynyrd Skynyrd, you know. And this, if you like a bit of Southern rock, but it's really catchy as well. I can't explain it. It is. I mean, I'm not into a huge amount of Southern rock. There's few bands that I like, you know, and this is right up there as one of my top bands. Absolutely superb. Really authentic band. Great band. And I'll give Blackberry Smoke, Little Piece of Dixie, also 7.5 out of 10. Right, next one. Bit of a comeback from this band, and that's Foreigner and Can't Slow Down. So this is a really good album that I didn't realise how good it was when it first came out. I don't think I'd give it too much of a chance, and you know, and if you actually go through this album, it is so consistent. Every track is good. It, you know, nearly hits the heights of their, you know, when they're in their heyday in the 80s. An absolutely brilliant performance by Kelly Hansen on vocals. He's got a slight Lou Gramm sound to him, but he is an excellent. I caught these guys live as well at Wembley once, and it was fantastic. And some of the good tracks on here, the title track itself, Can't Slow Down, is really good opener. In Pieces, Living in a Dream, Lonely. There's quite a few ballads and slower stuff on here, but you know, that's what Foreigner are all about. You know, you get that, which is really good. So I'll give this 8 out of 10. My number 5, one of my bands I've appeared a lot on my list, that's Primal Fear, 16/6, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. So this is a real return to their roots, if you like. So they brought out their album before, I can't even remember the name of it now, I think it was New Religion, and this was after that, and they went back heavy again. You know, there's still some epic tracks on here, they always do those epic tracks, but this, the production was back where I thought on the previous album it was a bit poor. The guitar was right up there in the mix, and now it's back to their full-blown power metal, heavy metal. Oh, brilliant. So some of the favourite tracks in here, and there's loads of them, but I'll name a couple. 6 Times Dead, excellent. Black Rain, that was one I'm talking about, their epic side. Killbound is a, oh my god, I mean, that's proper metal. That is, I mean, it's just medium paced, just the sort of stuff I like, as heavy as you like, but catchy at the same time. Absolutely superb band. I'll give that 8 out of 10. My second entry for a Southern band, and that's the legendary Lynyrd Skynyrd and God and Guns. So this was one I couldn't stop listening to. I wasn't into I obviously loved Skynyrd back in the 70s, you know, or maybe a bit young to actually like them at the time, but shortly afterwards, you know, early 80s, I listened to all the Skynyrd stuff. The Pronounced album is one of the best albums I've ever heard in my life, and all their catalogue until the obviously devastating plane crash that they were involved in. But then I never really got into the Skynyrd, the reformed Skynyrd with the, you know, with the brothers singing on this, obviously. But I never, that load of spate of albums that came out, I never really got into them. There was something missing. But with God and Guns, you know, if you miss the old Skynyrd, and I do as well even now, but this is quality, and there's a bit of real heaviness in this as well. I mean, the title, the Still Unbroken, what kicks this album off, it's probably the heaviest thing I've heard Skynyrd do. You know, it is real good. Still Unbroken, that's a great track, like I just said. Title track, God and Guns. I know this was a bit controversial when it first came out as well, obviously because of the gun, you know, the gun crime in America, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, they always stepped on the line of controversy a little bit, Skynyrd. You know, they were a bit of bad boys back in the day as well, but this is an absolutely great, solid album, God and Guns. Love it. It's easily the best album of the new generation of Skynyrd, if you like. And I'll give that 8 out of 10. Right, my number 3, one of my favourite bands from the grunge era. Had a big layoff, Alice in Chains, Black Gives Way to Blue. So, yeah, this was a great comeback. And if you thought they couldn't do it without Lane Staley, well, think again. I mean, Lane Staley, I've talked about him a lot on this channel. I love his voice. I think he was one of the best singers ever. But you know, they had to carry on, and I'm so glad they did, because Jerry Cantrell, he's the, you know, he's the songwriter. He's always been the main songwriter, and he is Alice in Chains as far as I'm concerned. And I know a lot of people won't give him a chance because he's gone. You know, Lane Staley's gone. So William Duval, they're like, you know, it's not the same. Well, it's not the same, but you know, they've actually released more albums now, I believe, with William Duval than they did, or the same amount of albums. I can't remember. It might be more. I think it's more. It's 4 albums now. It's four full albums, isn't it? Four full-length albums now, and they're great. And you know what? They've got better and better as well. Even with their new albums, absolutely superb. Some of my main tracks on here. Your Decision is a great slower song. Typical Alice in Chains. All Secrets Known kicking off the album. Check My Brain, another single. Excellent riff. An excellent riff to that song. And I'll give that 8 out of 10. Right, my number 2. So, might be a bit of a surprise for some people on the list. It's Wet. And it's their self-titled debut album. So, Wet is another super group, if you like, that Frontiers put together. I'm not always into those groups. I think sometimes it really works and sometimes it doesn't. This is where it was smashed out of the park. Jeff Scott Soto on vocals, Eric Martinson from Eclipse, and work of art guitarist Robert Soul, I think his name was. So this was pure melodic rock bliss, this one. I'll tell you, it's ear candy. The whole album, it is hit after hit after hit. No bad songs, and there's a real epicness about this as well. It's like a bit of Journey mixed in there. Obviously the bands that the guys are from as well. Eclipse are one of my favourite bands. Jeff Scott Soto does an amazing job on this. Just listen to Invincible, the track, the opening track, One Love. What an outstanding track. That was a single. Brothers in Arms is where I'm talking about that sort of epicness, but still so catchy. Come Down Like Rain, slow song. Absolute class, this band. Honestly, they've had 3 albums out now. This one is possibly my favourite, but all 3 are excellent. Right, my number 1. I'm going back to one of my favourite vocalists who's around at the moment. So, John and Spirit Black. This is actually my favourite album from John. He really, I don't know what it was about this album. He really hit his stride on this. I think this was at his peak for me. I mean, the songs on here, like, it's one of them ones again, isn't it? This is a 10 out of 10 album, by the way. It's from the beginning till the end. Spirit Black kicking it off. Below, Road of the Cross, Rock and Roll Angel, I Walk Alone. I Walk Alone is like a, I don't know, it's like a bit of a Sabbath sort of song. It's got a bit of White Snake mixed in there. This guy, honestly, that I know what I was thinking. I Walk Alone reminds me, Lonely is the words, little bit reminds me of that song. It's got that heavy riffing, slower sort of song. This guy, honestly, if you haven't given John a chance, and I'm sure you have, you guys, because you love your metal, but he is the real deal when it comes to classic. Such a powerful voice, you know, that mixture of Coverdale and Dio. Outstanding singer, outstanding, and that album is full of brilliant songs. So a few honourable mentions: Saxon, Into the Labyrinth, another quality sort of, they're putting out consistent albums, and they are really good, just not quite making my list a lot of the time. Striper, Murder by Pride. Now this is a step towards what they are now. You know, I think they had Reborn out a few years before this, and it just wasn't the same Striper. You know, there was guitar solos missing, and then Murder by Pride, and it's like the step towards the greatness that Striper are now. But for me, it didn't quite hit the mark. You know, I just think that they had a lot better to come, and that's obvious in the last 3 albums, and then there's a one to come this year, which I think is going to probably maybe be the album of the year. But Murder by Pride was like, it was good, but it didn't quite hit it for me, but it was still a good album. And Europe, Last Look at Eden, another good band that are underrated, frowned upon a bit because of the Final Countdown. They're not that band, I'm telling you. They're a really good band, but I think for me, I'm not into so much the bluesy side of heavy metal or heavy rock. So that, you know, they do quite a bit of that on their albums, but when they hit the melodic stuff, the melodic heavy rock stuff, that's when they get me. I'll tell you, they are great. And Winger as well, Karma came out. So another frowned upon band that shouldn't be. You know, I think a lot of these people, they won't give bands a chance because of who it is. I think if you just played some Winger to someone and they didn't know it was Winger when you put it on, they would just like be blown away, you know. And I think it's such a shame, because all because of a stupid fucking cartoon, you know, Beavis and fucking Butthead, like, had a go at Winger for years, and it's sort of given them a bad name. It's just so unfounded. It's so wrong, you know, that a band can near enough be destroyed because of a fucking cartoon. You know, that's just the way it is, I suppose. But honestly, if someone played you some of the best stuff that Winger did and you didn't know it was, you would be like, oh, that's a really good band. Oh, it's Winger. Oh, they're shit. I think sometimes that's the mentality people have. But, you know, all to their own, innit? Everyone's got an opinion, that's cool. But please give someone a chance. Not just because a cartoon says they're shit. You know, that ain't the way. So, thank you very much. Hope you like the video. Hope you like my opinions. Sometimes I can get a bit excited, so I'm sorry about that. But please subscribe if you like my channel. Red button, bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much.